Hey everyone, let's get into it. All right, we're going to talk about something that is maybe a little bit personal to me, but I think everyone's going to love. This is an episode on the ML320, the W163 chassis Mercedes. Let's take you back to the 1990s. This is my angle, and I am James Angley. Luxury SUVs, they were not a thing back then. This is the late 90s. I'm talking about 97, 98, around that range. Everyone looks back and they see the RX 300, but that was not released until 1998. And the X5, which is another luxury SUV, that wasn't until 1999. So Mercedes was the pioneer in this industry. They came out with the ML320 in 1997. When you look them up, it's going to be 1998. But that's how model years work. And I don't know. I'm not here to explain why. That is something for you to look up, and maybe we'll do a video on that later. But this ML320 was supposed to be a G-Wagon replacement. Now, if you talk to Mercedes, they're going to say, we never plan to replace the G-Wagon. And I'll pop a picture up where they actually said that. But everybody who's ever researched this vehicle, that is exactly what was supposed to happen. And I think what really was supposed to happen is in the United States, the G-Wagon was something that wasn't really here, wasn't really popular, wasn't like a big thing. And they were like, you know what? We're going to bring this to America. We're going to have a body on frame SUV that's good at off road. And this is going to be our replacement to the G-Wagon in the United States. Little did we know that sucker was going to take off. But the ML320 is still an important vehicle in our lifetime, and I'm going to get into why. This, as I mentioned, was a body-on-frame vehicle, independent suspension all around. Think about it like an E-Class SUV at the time. Except instead of having that divorced McPherson strut sort of setup in the front, they replaced that with torsion bars, which is going to come into play later. Bear with me. So, this thing came with a low-range transfer case. A low-range transfer case with a 2.64 to 1 ratio and 4 ETS, which was Mercedes' version of an off-road traction control system. If anybody has watched the old videos of when the Hummer, the Humvee, the military H1 was debuted, they would talk about how it had open differentials, but it had this system where when the vehicle was on its side, had one wheel popped up because it had no articulation. The outside wheel was spinning because it had an open differential. And that's what happens with an open differential. When you lose traction on one side, all the power goes to the side of least resistance. So they told you, you got to modulate that brake pedal to stop that outside wheel and push the power to the wheel that's actually on the ground and can actually get you moving. Mercedes saw something like this and they thought, how about we do this with computers, and how about we control it to do it on its own? And you know what? It was actually a fantastic system. So the 4 ETS system was their off-road traction control system, or just a traction control system in general, because let's face it, that's useful in almost any situation that you lose traction. This had some real off-road chops. This had 8.7 inches of ground clearance. Nothing crazy, but it was a lot at the time. And it had a 29-degree approach angle, a 20-degree breakover angle, and a 30-degree departure angle. Again, nothing crazy, nothing to write home about. But that was better than some 4Runners. I know that sounds crazy to think that this Mercedes SUV, which was some soccer mom car, had a better a better departure angle and a better breakover angle than a 4Runner, but it did. This is a great vehicle. Now, it only had 20 inches of wading depth. Not crazy, but you go stand in 20 inches of water with nothing but your sneakers on and tell me if you want to be in it. Hop in that car and drive through it instead. It was useful. Don't scoff at it. Something special about this vehicle that a lot of people don't know is this was one of the first American-made Mercedes vehicles. This was built in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. These snobs, pinky out, nose up Mercedes people, they look at this and a lot of them called it the Alabama trash can. And there's some reasons why. It was not the perfect vehicle. It was not some S-Class that was made in Germany and has the tightest tolerances and was a perfect vehicle, but it was great. And I'll tell you why. If you don't buy one of these by the end of this video, I didn't do my job. MotorTrend in 1998 voted this the truck of the year. And that's right, I said it, truck of the year, because it was body on frame. Now, in America, if it doesn't have a bed, it's not a truck. But in the rest of the world, a body on frame vehicle is a truck. And this was truck of the year. If you get the chance, watch the MotorTrend video. If it's on YouTube, I'll put a link below so you can watch it. It is fantastic. It's a great truck. Now, it was plagued with poor build quality, loose fitting parts, lots of panel gaps. If you've ever watched the Top Gear video of Jeremy Clarkson going over this, he'll point it out. But you know what he said at the end of this? Mercedes is going to sell gobs of these things. And they did. Not only was it because it got the 3-pointed star on the front, but because it's a good vehicle and because it can go off-road. And just like somebody who wears a Rolex Submariner and you can go 300 meters under the water, but you'll never actually do it, it's nice to know that it can. And that's what this vehicle brought. It was solid, it was strong, and it could do all the things that you will never actually do in it, unless you're like the third or fourth owner, which maybe I was in the future. So a lot of these complaints came through. We have a lot of loose fitting body parts. We have a lot of quality control issues. So in 2001, they did a facelift and that fixed a lot of it. Maybe it was a little too late. I don't know. But what was really cool, if you ask me, was back in 2000, they had the ML55, which is a 5.4 liter V8 AMG hand-built engine put into one of these big mom SUVs. Why did nobody think of this sooner? A fast SUV. It's large. It holds a lot of people. It holds a lot of cargo. And it goes fast. The only difference they really did with this is slightly stiffer springs. They lowered it about an inch. But overall, this was the same vehicle. That's a win-win if you ask me. That's kind of a cool thing. And I still want one. I think I want the ML320 more. And that's just probably some personal feelings. Now, if you're a millennial like me and you're obsessed with the Jurassic Park franchise, there is no way you can't like this vehicle. If you've seen Jurassic Park: The Lost World, in 1997, this was the hit movie. And some people would argue it's a terrible movie. But those people are wrong. It had the Mercedes ML320 in it. How bad could it be? This is a great movie. The only thing that saved Vince Vaughn, Julianne Moore, and Jeff Goldblum from their certain demise was the ML320.
We need rope.
Rope? What? Anything else?
Yeah, 3 double cheeseburgers with everything.
No onions on mine.
I don't know. We'll turn it over.
Funny. This vehicle winched up the high hide, which was
It's a high hide. A high hide. You know, you go up and you hide. Hide.
pulled up on a winch into the trees to, hide from the predators, which, as Jeff Goldblum liked to point out in that movie, really just puts you in biting zone. That was the ML320. The thing that kept that bendy bus, crazy Fleetwood RV turned into a command center from falling off the cliff was the ML320. I mean, they had that guy hook up to the front of that crazy cow catcher bull bar on the front of that RV with a winch and an ML, and he threw it in reverse, which, by the way, it was in manual, which is a really cool feature that never came to the US. It was thrown in reverse, put in low range, and back that sucker up just to give Vince Vaughn and all them time to hold on to that rope right before everything went down. That poor guy didn't make it, but spoiler alert, it didn't happen. But they bought him time. That was the ML320. It was the hero car. A hero car can change how you feel about everything. Ask about my recent sighting with DeLorean and my wife thinking I was delusional just like gawking at it and pointing at it like, that's a DeLorean, that's a DeLorean, because of Back to the Future. If you love movies, you love cars, you have to understand this. One of my favorite lines, and by my favorite, I mean it's my brother's favorite, and he's gonna hate me for saying this, was when they were prepping all the MLs and the Fleetwood RVs and stuff, and the guys yelling, "Put half PSI in the tires so we get traction." It's such a cool car. This was a phenomenon of that era. I still have all of those Burger King watches from the 1997 release of The Lost World Jurassic Park. Now I'm throwing my notes out the window for this last part because I'm going to talk about why this car means so much to me personally. I have owned three of these vehicles. The first one I use own a little loosely because back in, I don't know, 2009, 2010, something like that, my mom happened to buy one of these from our Mercedes mechanic that we had. He was a local guy who worked on Mercedes, Audi, BMW, and he had one of these sitting out front for $4,800. And I said, "Hey mom, there's this thing out here." I didn't even like it. She bought it right away. I don't know why. I thought it was ugly. I thought it looked like a minivan. I didn't think anything was cool about this car. And she bought it. Now that's right. In 2008 or 9, you could buy one of these for less than $5,000. And little do you know, you're getting one of the best vehicles out there. This thing had 37,000 miles on it. And it lasted forever. We did not take good care of it. They recommended like 10,000 mile oil changes on these Mercedes. And I took that to heart. I dragged out those oil changes. I didn't do any other service. I did oil changes and tires on that thing. And we took it all the way to 237,000 miles. Me and my friends loaded up in this thing, drove from Pennsylvania all the way to Florida and back, and nothing bad happened. It was great. It was comfortable. It was amazing. And from then on, I said, I love these things. I did some research. I saw how they were made in America. I saw how they were built to off-road. I saw how they were built to be a mom E-Class, all wrapped into one. This was such a cool vehicle, and they just didn't get the recognition they deserved, if you ask me. But I'll tell you what, you still see these things on the road, and they're still going. There's one for sale not too long away from me, and I'm thinking about trading my beautiful, perfectly low mileage Raptor in for one of these. That's how good they are. I had that one. When I was at school, I wrecked my car because I'm an idiot, and I bought another one. And then when that one got run down, I bought another one. And I loved every single one of them, and they are great at everything. They were great in the snow. They were great off-road. They're great on-road. They hold a decent amount of people. You could even get them with a jump seat third row, which I'm very much interested in now that I have 3 kids. And they could hold a bunch of cargo in the back. I think if I were to get one of these now, I'd still want to look out for those stupid 2-tone gray bumper ones. Throw a roof rack on it, crank up the torsion bars to lift it an inch and a half, maybe lower inch and a half, doesn't matter. That's a really cool thing about these front torsion bar suspension is you can crank them up or lower them down. There's a little bolt on there that adjusts the torsion bar key so you can raise or lower that suspension. That is a cool feature, and you do that, there's some all-terrains, and then they sell aftermarket now some spacers for the rear struts, make it a little higher in the rear. Do that, and you got yourself a real nice vehicle. James Pumphrey, on his most recent video, talks about some undercover good buys to get. The number one thing that he mentioned on there was the ML320. His buddy built a Porsche Cayenne off-road SUV, and he thought, you know what? I want an off-road SUV. First thing he looked at was the ML. He said, I want to get an ML 500 because that is a great vehicle to get and a steal. Look at Doug DeMuro. Doug DeMuro wrote an article on this back in the day, and he did a video on it recently. This is one of the most influential life-changing or automotive-changing decisions in the past 30 years. This is such an influential car. And without it, we wouldn't have the luxury SUV market that we have. So you tell me, comment below, like, subscribe. This is my angle, and I am James Angley, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one. Thank you.